Hey y'all! So today we're going to talk about Emily Henry's Funny Story and why it is my favorite Emily Henry book. I just finished reading it and I'm excited to talk about this one. I did not read this book, I listened to it. So most of the time when I do a review, I will have read it on my Kindle or from the library, but this time I actually listened to it as an audiobook. I recently found out that I can get audiobooks as part of my Spotify subscription, so that might end up happening more frequently, but this is new for me and it might be affecting how I feel about the book. I don't really know, but I did want to put that out there. Okay, so this book is about a girl named Daphne, and she has a fiance who ends up leaving her for his childhood best friend Petra. And in the midst of this, Daphne ends up moving in with Petra's ex-fiance Miles, and that's kind of where the story begins. And it's all about everything that happens within that. When I listened to the book, I believe it said that it took like 10 hours to read, and I listened to it on 1.4 speed. And I read this book in 2 days. So next, getting into the book, we're going to talk about ease of immersion, and I'm really basing this based off of how quickly I was able to forget that I was reading someone's writing. And I would say that maybe it's just because I was listening to the book instead of reading it and like really analyzing the words that I was reading, but I felt like I got immersed into this book and didn't feel like I was reading someone's writing within the first few chapters, honestly. And so I'm going to rate this book a 4 out of 5 on ease of immersion. The character believability. I would give the character believability in this book a 4 out of 5. Now, my reasoning for this is because I think that the main characters felt very believable, they felt very established, but I would say most of the secondary characters felt very flat and undeveloped, so they worked for what they needed to do in the story, but I didn't feel like they were these super dynamic characters that felt super real. I would say that the conflict believability in this book is everything that drives it. I would give this a 5 out of 5 because the entire scenario that the book is based off of is conflict, and how that conflict kind of puddles into new scenarios, and I think that that really worked for this book, so 5 out of 5 there. Honestly, no complaints on the believability of the conflict. Okay, next is going to be plot and predictability. So for this one, a yes or no question, was I waiting for something to happen that did end up happening? Yes. And this is like a question that I have on this list because I think that it's important to answer when you're considering reading a book, because some people don't like reading that. But I would say out of all of the books that I've read by Emily Henry, which is 5, that's just kind of a given. Like her books are really more of a story that you enjoy reading, and it's kind of like a comfort book. It's not necessarily made for surprises, but I would definitely say that little moments within the book were unexpected, and so that helped a lot. So I would give this a 4 out of 5 because even though it is predictable, there were moments of surprises, and it's kind of a given when you're reading this type of book, so I don't want to rate it too poorly on that one. Then going into emotional impact. So did I cry when I read this book? No, but I don't think that's really the intention of this book. I think absolutely if you were to connect to certain portions of this story personally, there is enough emotional depth in this writing to create a moment where you would want to cry, but personally I didn't experience that. And then emotional connection, I would give this book a 4 out of 5. I really did feel emotionally connected to the main character, and I was able to visualize not only what was happening, but how she would be feeling in it. So 4 out of 5 on the emotional impact of this book. It wasn't blowing me out of the water, but it was definitely a good one. Next is going to be tropes. And now I like to look these up on the internet to make sure that I'm not going off on my own tangent. Google AI Overview says that the tropes are forced proximity, enemies to lovers or at least reluctant allies, and unexpected connections, focusing on healing. It's got a whole bunch of different things, but the main one that they're pointing out is forced proximity. If that's the trope that this book is going for, forced proximity, I would say like a 2 out of 5 on the execution of that trope. I think that obviously it had to happen for the storyline to progress the way that it did, but I don't think that it was a super strong point. If I were to choose a trope for this book, I would lean far more into self-discovery and unexpected connections. I think that that is what really shined through when I was reading this book, and if you consider that the trope of this book, it's a 5 out of 5. I think that we continue to see these connections that don't really make sense and then work so well to then build into that like character growth, like self-discovery, all of that. And so if that's the way that you look at the book, I think that the tropes are awesome. If you're expecting a super strong forced proximity trope, not as great. My overall rating for this book ended up being a 4 out of 5. I feel like even though it's not going to become a book that I read again, I would recommend it to other people, and I did really enjoy reading it, and I feel like the story is actually in my mind, not just something that I read and then moved on from. So 4 out of 5. I was pretty happy with this book. So that's the end of my spoiler-free review, just giving you an idea of what the book is about so you can decide if you want to read it. If you decided that you want to read it, pause the video now. I'm about to get into some spoilers, but make sure and like it and come back after you've read the book so you can talk to me about your thoughts and hear mine. Okay, so the first thing that I want to touch on before anything else is that after Daphne moves in with Miles and she decides to walk to work and she sees that beautiful house for sale and starts imagining her life in it, that happened so early on in the story that I basically just knew from that moment that one way or another she would end up in some sort of house, either that one or something similar, by the end of the book. And so that really, really hurt the predictability value of this book, because from that moment on, I was just like, okay, somehow, some way, we're going to lead to that. Now, the next thing was that when she was looking for other job opportunities and they were talking about her job opportunity to work in a library that's literally in a lighthouse, that was like too good for me, because this book had an element of like personal growth and like figuring out who you are and what you want, and that just seemed like such a magical thing on its own. Like, I would read a book about a girl that works in a library in a lighthouse, and so that was hard for me because I wanted to see that happen, and it was kind of putting this conflict of like, maybe she shouldn't be with this Miles guy, like maybe she should move and like do that, and wouldn't that be good for her character progression, because then she has to completely rebuild something on her own. And I almost wish that it hadn't been that good. Like, I almost wish it had just been another children's librarian spot that was near her mom that was just at a regular library. And I think I would have been more like, just throw it away. But because it was so perfect, I felt myself mentally like thinking about it and almost wishing that that would be the outcome, which made me a little bit less like hopeful about her relationship with Miles. So I didn't love that. And then I guess just my one other thought about this book was just how much I loved all of the characters. Like, I know that in the review I was saying that those characters were kind of underdeveloped, but I did love all of like the little, like the lavender farm and the cherries and all of that. Like, I just loved meeting all of those little characters and having them have their little personalities that just come in for a moment every few chapters. I feel like that just really helps set the scene in a way that not many books do, because we talk about, oh, we went to this pretty place and did this pretty thing and this is what my house looks like and whatever. I feel like seeing those little characters really allowed me to visualize the story in a way that I don't always get to do. So I really liked that about this book. Alright, well, that's everything that I have on Emily Henry's Funny Story. I hope you enjoyed listening. Thank you for sticking around till the end. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment with any of your thoughts. I'd love to hear them.